I'm representing here the European lotteries, and I'm coming to one of the questions from the audience about the money. Yeah, I have some figures for me. This is a good one. I'm representing an association of state or state-licensed lotteries and total companies. And if I focus it on the European Union, I'm talking about 53 of our members. If I extend it to, let's say, what we call Europe, from Iceland to Kazakhstan, we talk about some sort of 70. And I have the honor of being a vice president of this association. What we mainly sell is draw-based games, instant ticket sports games in the pari-mutuel and fixed odds type. Our sales are approximately 77 billion per annum. And we have a gross gaming revenue, and gross gaming revenue means the full stake, and then you deduct the prize money, and that is left, let's say, for the costs and for the net revenue. And based on that, we can say that payments to society, so the treasury, duties, sports, and other good causes, amount 22.4 billion per annum. So that is 64% of GGR. And because we are talking about sports, I want to specifically point at the figure of 2 billion, at least 2 billion per annum. That is spent to develop a further sports infrastructure in Europe, in all the different member states. And that is a huge support that is already existing for years. And that is at stake because we are, let's say, in a heavy battle with the commercial part of the sports betting area. We are not only spending our income or our net revenue to sports, we are also financially supporting other sectors of society, such as culture, welfare, humanitarian aid, research, you name it, and we give money to that. We have some guiding principles. We say, according to what has been said also in the European Court of Justice, we adopt the subsidiarity principle. So, in our view, it's up to the national governments to regulate the system, to regulate the activities with regard to gaming and gambling. And of course, the national governments has to take into account that they are active in keeping an internal coherence of national restrictive policy, because we want a restrictive market in our countries. Another principle is integrity. Of course, we have to provide games, but we have to keep the integrity of these games very high. And that includes also the integrity with regard to the sports competitions. There has a lot been said today about corruption in sport. I don't want to repeat it, but it has to do with that, and we take it very serious. Another principle, a guiding principle, is precaution. Precaution means that if we introduce a new game, it has to be investigated if it can lead to detrimental effects for our consumers. If so, we don't want to introduce that game, just as an example. And last but not least, I'm talking about solidarity. I think most of our members are active on a not-for-profit base. And our main principle is that all the net revenue should go back to society. And society benefits in two ways. First of all, we have the social costs under control. Social costs connected with, let's say, the negative effects of gambling, crime and fraud, addiction, and so on. And secondly, the money goes also back to society, financing all kinds of sectors in that society I just mentioned. Following the line of the Senator this morning, I want to add, and that is, let's say, within our principles, that for us, the integrity of sports is more important than revenues of sports betting. And secondly, I can say that it is up to the sports associations to decide, in their own sports of course, what in sports betting is acceptable, or what is, or could be corruptive, or risky, or dangerous. And third, and it's also in line of what the Senator proposed, I think work for integrity of sports, intelligence, education, awareness for match fixing and so on, monitoring all these issues, that can be structured by what I should call a integrity and solidarity payment by from the sales of sports betting to sports associations or international bodies for integrity. Just in line with what you proposed this morning. I think we are in good company. The European Community, all the bodies, from Commission to Council, and even the European Court of Justice, are more or less in line with the model we are trying to protect, we are trying to sustain. The European Commission, the intention of the European Commission is by far not to open the market in Europe. The intention is not a full liberalization of the gambling market in Europe. And they have now started an initiative by a green paper. The latest information I have that this green paper will be published in the midst of March, that is specifically focused on the online gambling in the internal market. Secondly, it's absolutely also in line with what the European Parliament has said with regard to the Schaldemose report on the integrity of online gambling. The European Parliament strongly endorses a restricted and strong regulated market in that area. And third, the European Council very recently under the Belgian presidency adopted a resolution, and it's very clear that the contributions of lotteries are highly valuable and should be protected and continued and taken into account in all the discussions that come up in Europe in the next years. And I was talking about the European Court of Justice. You know, I'm a person who likes to go to court, and I was in court cases in the Netherlands for, let's say, more than 30 times. And it continues because we are heavily attacked by the friends of Mr. Davis, because they want to penetrate our market and get their share. And that's not what we want, because we want to keep the money by ourselves. Not by ourselves, but for good causes. A lot of these court cases have brought to, let's say, the highest level, the European Court of Justice. And there, again, the simple message there is that they adopt and confirm, again, the subsidiarity principle. So it is up to the national governments to decide what is allowed in their own territory. And second, that there is no mutual recognition or a country of origin principle. What does that mean? Well, if you have a license in Malta or in the UK, it is not automatically okay also for the Netherlands, for example. If you want to be active in the Netherlands, you need a license, a proper license from the Dutch government, and that's it. And according to the court cases, it has been said explicitly that internet has to be seen as some sort of additional distribution network, submitted to national rules and regulations. You know, I had a lot of discussions about internet, and the discussion was also about that it is a very specific area and that needs a very specific regulation, and that is of course not true. It's just an additional distribution mean. If I'm talking about, let's say, the governance structure of European lotteries, we are fully submitted to the national rules and regulations. It is not merely some sort of self-regulation. And we have, of course, our own EL standards on responsible gaming. And we have our EL code of conduct for sports betting. And of course, we have our partnerships with UEFA, IOC, Sportaccord, etc., etc. And we have, because we feel it as a responsibility, our own EL monitoring system, where we provide all kinds of information about irregularities, supposed irregularities in matches, and we provide that information for instance, UEFA or the National Football Association. And then I come to the battle, because the battle is going on. It's mainly let's say, a battle between the remote gambling operators who are at this moment not licensed in a specific country versus these national governments who at this moment doesn't give any access to their territory. As I said, it has led to a lot of national and European court cases. But at the end, I think with all the remarks coming from the European Commission, European Parliament, European Council, and even the European Court of Justice, it is very clear that for the organizations that are representing, let's say, the commercial side of betting, and there's no room to maneuver at this moment in Brussels anymore. So they are focusing now on national developments, national opportunities. I'm talking about, let's say, the intentions of several countries to open up their markets in a way of some sort of controlled opening, or you can also put it this way, a walled garden, yeah, where you, under specific conditions, can supply your games, yeah. And in that area, that's then allowed that more suppliers can be allowed to do the job. Why is that? Well, I have to be honest. There are governments eager, especially because of the financial crisis, to replenish their coffers. And they see the potential of online gambling as a valuable source of income. But the problem there is, and a lot of these governments realize that they have to keep the balance between what I would say consumer protection and tax state. And that is a very difficult one. You see in a few examples, for instance in Denmark and also in France, put as an example by our opponents as that's the way you should go, that meanwhile there are some second thoughts because they wanted to open up their market in a very controlled way. But they are now running into trouble because it's, to put it very simply, you know, you are trying to invite a shark in your swimming pool. And at the end, you end up with nothing because everything is eaten up by these sharks. Yeah? I've put it very simply. I want to warn also these governments because don't seek solutions on an individual basis. Because what happens now at this moment is that there is a heavy lobby, an orchestrated lobby, all over Europe, especially focusing on the governments who are thinking about some sort of controlled opening. And the focus of this lobby is to get as low as possible percentage of duty on the GGR, not on the full stake, on GGR. And that continues the problem we have financing all these activities for sports, for instance, but also for other areas. So a possible percentage of duty as low as possible. And one of the other things is that they want to keep alive an unlimited access. Yeah? So everybody has to come in, not 10 or 15 or 5 new licensees. No, everybody has to come in. Yeah? And another point is, and that is connected to that, the competitiveness of the global network should be intact. Yeah? Has to be intact. So if you play, for instance, in the Netherlands or in another country, on this basis, you are not playing within the framework or within the supply of, let's say, what is accepted on a national basis. Yeah? So not all the products with regard to sports betting are available. That is not what they want. You are connected with a global supply. Yeah? And that makes it very dangerous in my eyes. And last but not least, there is the suggestion, if you open up that market, of an extensive income for the state. I have a good example in the Netherlands. The guy who's running this lobby firm in the Netherlands is promising hundreds of millions extra income for the state. And now in a confidential paper, he's focusing on only 10 million. That's a huge difference. Yeah. Well, for the discussion, I would leave it to that. I thought it was clear enough.
Thank you. Thank you, Tjeerd. Thank you very much.